There's obviously now a large focus on trying to get older people into the workforce again, particularly in the UK, but I'm sure in other areas how we can motivate those people. And the aspects of autonomy and social connection and so on seem very relevant to that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the, I suppose, the quantitative side of the research, the 4,000 plus people I surveyed, actually is a pretty even distribution across working age from sort of 20 to probably late mid-50s. There was an even distribution. So, I certainly had responses from people who are slightly older, but certainly mid-50s was the kind of top end. Well, look, here's the general, the high level thing, which is another positive, I think, is that there's been COVID has been a catalyst for provoking people to think differently about work in many different ways. And one conversation which some were having beforehand, but now I think has picked up in pace and probably legitimacy as well, is the fact that as people live older, as people live longer rather, it's perfectly normal for people to work longer as well. And actually that opens up possibilities. It doesn't always need to be a negative. Now, of course, I am generalizing here because you have to. If some very physically demanding careers, the reality of working longer it's not possible. I think when the physical strain's put on the body, sometimes it's more difficult to sustain that career. But of course, then there's other, the point here is that careers are evolving and the requirements in society and life for different types of jobs are also rapidly evolving. So who knows what type of careers are available to people. But let's just assume, thought experiment, people are living longer and maybe instead of retiring at, say, average of 60, let's push it out to 75. This is the extreme example. Well, most people think, oh my God, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. But there are very many of us who don't actually view it as such. Now, do we want to work 40, 50 hours a week every week until we're 75? Probably not. But if we rethink now what work could look like for the remainder of our career because we're going to be working longer, then actually it opens up a lot of possibility for life to be more enjoyable. So less pressure to earn that money now so that we can retire early. So we've got 30, if I'm turning 40 next month, if I work till I'm 75, which is completely feasible, that's 35 years that I have the possibility to earn money. So rather than retiring in 20 years and then living for another 20 years, that takes the pressure off there. But what it also opens up the opportunity to do is more freedom with time. And I think Linda Grattan, who you may know, who's a really good, great business thinker. Yeah, she's been on my show as well, and she's fantastic. I mean, really value her work and really value her thinking. And she talked about this idea of the multi-stage life replacing the three-stage life. And I'm a massive advocate of this because that three-stage life of education, work, retirement, that isn't a realistic representation of the future and the reality of now, actually, for a lot of people. And here, let me lay out a scenario again. Rather than us, being in education until, say, 21, then working until we're 60 and then retiring and, dying when we're 80, let's say. What about if actually we rethought our relationship with education and work? So every few years we were spending some time on a sabbatical and spending some more time learning. But along the way, it's punctuated by upskilling in many different areas, which, of course, given how quickly the marketplace is evolving, kind of makes sense. And therefore then it just that connection between work and life, almost there's less friction, there's less pressure between it, because you're saying, look, here's an opportunity for life and work to fit together better because we can elongate it, and there's just more opportunity to design it in a way which is I suppose it's just putting less strain on. And I think that's the thing. I think when we had this system and this sort of mental framework, we had said you've just got to work, so you've got enough money to retire. And then what do people do when they retire? Well, many people are looking for something else to do and volunteering. And, in some cases, my dad he retired about 3 times and he's been going back to work every time because he's bored out of his mind. And it's great for him because he needs that mental stimulus. So anyway, it's a very long way of saying, I think this idea, thinking differently about the way we're designing our life, doesn't just need to mean day to day. It can also mean thinking about the future as well.